Hi, everyone. My name is Spencer Giese. I'm an educational program manager at ACUHO-I, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us this afternoon for another entry in our ACUHO-I webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking about AI with a couple of esteemed professionals that are very knowledgeable in the field from Kent State, Julie and Summer. Before we get started, I just want to bring your attention to our homepage at ACUHO-I, akuho-i.org. On that front page, you'll be able to see all of our upcoming events, including upcoming webinars that we'll be hosting all summer on a wide range of topics that are applicable and timely for you all to enjoy. Um, as I stated earlier, we're going to be recording the session as well, and we're going to be posting it to YouTube following our webinar today. So you'll be able to revisit or share with your colleagues. We do have a captions option on our Zoom, so if you are seeking captions, please click that. You'll have that on your end. We have a Q&A function in Zoom today, so you'll be able to submit any questions throughout our time, and we'll be sure to cover those. And without further ado, I'd love to pass it over to Julie and Summer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Spencer, for inviting us. We're super excited to be here. So as he said, we have a great webinar in store for you, about 30 minutes, hopefully, so you can get some of your Friday back if or ask all the questions. But we're going to talk about foundations and harnessing AI while keeping housing human. So what that looks like from our marketing world. We know that everybody's using AI. And everybody's still using AI. This hasn't changed. We've been using AI for about 3 years in our role here at Kent State, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that. I'm Summer Dunleavy. I am the Associate Director of Marketing and Creative Services here at Kent State University for the Division of Student Life.
My name is Julia Cahey. I am the new media specialist for the Division of Student Life here in Kent State University. Summer and I really specialize on housing and culinary. It's where we came from before we merged to the Division of Student Life. And like Summer said, we spent really the past 3 years trying to really embed AI in our marketing strategy, using it consciously and ethically. So we're really excited to talk to you today about it. So we wanted to start with a quote. That AI will have a major impact on society is no longer in question. Current debate turns instead on how far this impact will be positive or negative, for whom, in which ways, in which places, and on what timescale. That's a quote from Dr. Luciano Floridi. He is one of the founders of AI for People, a really great group that talks about ethics of AI. And this quote was said in 2018. So if we think about how far we've come in just 7 years, ChatGPT was not around in 2018. These were questions that were going on in Silicon Valley. And now that AI is accessible to the public, really those questions have really bubbled to the surface of mainstream society.
So what AI can do today? We're going to talk about 3 different areas: automating the routine, so focusing on what matters, streamlining assignments, and then summarizing large amounts of data, as I'm sure you all get as we do in our housing day-to-day lives.
So part of my role here is I manage the housing social media pages. Sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle. So AI really helps me out. We use Sprout Social as our third-party scheduler, and they have a built-in AI to their system. So what you're seeing on the screen is a post that I wrote a temporary caption for. I wanted to see if I could jazz it up. So I opened that AI assistant that they have, and just to see if I could get a little copywriting tips. One of the great things about Sprout Social is their AI is really robust. So not only can it recommend copy to me like ChatGPT would, but it can benchmark my top posts. So what performed well in the past, and it can make recommendations based on those patterns. So I can really make sure that I'm engaging my audience. It can also do this with competitors' posts. So if I saw another university doing it and I'm really trying to compete with them, it's a great resource to do it at a glance, to do it within a couple seconds, and to do it without having to leave the site that I'm already operating within. The other AI component to Sprout Social that is generally the most beneficial to me is it will analyze what is the best time to post. This takes one more thing off of my plate. It makes sure that it's optimized to the best time for my audience. It's custom to my audience for the days to detect their patterns. But if I know, let's say finals week, students tend to be up later, I can just override that. So it's a really great option for me. Their AI also does have sentiment detection. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. So this is actually from a post this morning. We posted about some of our students graduating in their cap and gown. They went to their first residence hall and then told us a little bit about it. And our AI sentiment detection said it was negative. There are a lot of emotions around graduation, but I wouldn't call these posts negative. So that's one way. The AI is there to help me, but also I can click on that and override it. No way they're graduating. I know, can't believe it. But I would say that's a positive. We want these students to graduate.
So another way that we use it is to try to really take a lot of heavy data and sort it out into a more digestible way. So we use ChatGPT amongst many other AI bots that we choose, and we've been dabbling in a lot. But for this one, I did a ChatGPT Gantt chart. I was looking at something on, okay, it's the housing application cycle for 2025. What does that look like? When do I need stuff out? How can I, get all this information in one solid piece? And so I typed in everything that our housing assignments team gave about the application cycle, and I dropped it into ChatGPT. Not all of it, but within reason. And this is kind of what they came up with. And I didn't touch it. I just wanted to show you all the raw data that it came up with, like when the application opens, first wave of deadlines, et cetera, et cetera. Then you can see how it kind of built it all out. Now, we're in marketing and we enjoy a really good colorful Gantt chart. So you can see I told it to add some color. What's really interesting though is like you really want to just take this as a starting piece versus this is what's solid, because there are some things that we know that these robots don't know. And we'll get into that a little bit more and how to adjust that. But what a great starting point so that you don't have to necessarily start from scratch if you're making a timeline like this. But it also, they put their ledger right over top of room swap period. So if you weren't looking for that, so it's not really intuitive on all of that if you don't actually tell it as well.
We've started using ChatGPT as a way to kind of help us out with data analysis. I feel really comfortable with the quantitative stuff, but sometimes when I'm dealing with mass amounts of qualitative data, it gets a little overwhelming. So what you're seeing here, you don't have to read it all, but essentially I uploaded a PDF that I downloaded from Qualtrics, mostly of qualitative data. So we had a period, we collaborated with our facilities team. We set up a mock room with new furniture, and we invited students to come look at it. So the students got to vote on what their favorite was, give feedback, and we had over 2,000 people submit data. To go through all of that qualitative research was a lot. So I downloaded it, isolated that, uploaded it to ChatGPT, and I asked it to generate the top action items in order of how often they were put in and how impactful they were written. So you can see it's already given me 15 items. And in the time it took me to even download a Qualtrics form, ChatGPT has done it so much faster and quicker. And I still have all that raw data that I can go back and look at, but this is a really great option for me to know what I'm getting into before I read 12 pages of comments.
So now we're going to touch on why the human touch still matters. As I mentioned in that Gantt chart example, it does still matter, period. So what AI can't replace, it can't, Kent State is a student-first facility or campus, and you're not going to be able to replace that. Emotional connection and storytelling, we'll get into some of those examples, and then personalized engagement with students. So as I mentioned, well, Julia had just talked about putting our mock room together, if you will, and having 2,000 students rate the furniture. So in the first picture, there's somebody scanning a QR code. We did a QR code. We had them scan it. It was super fun. So it was interactive that way. But to be able to sit into those chairs, to test out the beds. Do they squeak? Are they wood? Whatever that looks like, you're not going to be able to do that through AI. We also do a thing in our housing called the Resis. It's the end of the year celebration, and what a great way to connect with our students and really showcase them. Another one is our Kent craziness, our squirrels going out, handing out stickers, getting people to vote, just great, great things. You're never going to replace that human touch.
When it comes to AI, we are big fans of using it and incorporating it, but there are downsides to using AI, particularly with biases built into AI. AI is trained on people. There are two ways that AI can generate its training data. So number one, it can scrape things from things already published online. It can go out and see things, get information that way. And then two, it can learn a lot from people interacting with it. It analyzes behavior in addition to the text that's in there. The downside is, A, we as consumers don't know what data it is trained on. So do we know if it's been to sites that maybe have false information, sites that, post things that are, not normalized in society? Are people, treating this site assuming they have anonymity? We all know anonymity tends to, make people not great. So that is a real concern we have when we use AI. You can see from some of the articles we have over here, there are genuine concerns about racism, gender stereotypes that it's perpetuating, especially racism within AI-generated images. A lot of times, if you say doctor, it's going to give you a white man. If you say a nurse, it's going to give you a white woman. So really thinking about what it's trained on and what it's giving us, but also being aware that we as humans have agency that AI doesn't necessarily have. So we need to take everything with a grain of salt and intercept it. And we also have the power to call out AI and give it more specific information. If you're asking for a picture of somebody smart, it might give you a white man sitting in front of books, but you can say, I'm looking for a more diverse population. So having that agency and calling it out, in addition to knowing that you might engage with this and get some of those biases back to you.
So as Julia mentioned, sometimes that human interaction is really what you need. And let's take design. So I oversee a robust design team here within the division. And this is a real world application on how I used ChatGPT to create a logo. So my sister actually was like, hey, can you create a logo? It was like a Sunday night. I was like, okay, girl, not today, but let's just see what happens. I'll get you that. But let's see. She's like, I need it fast. And I was like, all right. So I put into ChatGPT what I wanted. And basically she said that my brother-in-law was looking to get a logo for this group of guys that hang out in the neighborhood. They live in Texas and they just go to each other's homes and watch baseball games, football games, whatever, and drink beer and have a good time, right? And they call themselves the Vatos Locos. So I put all that into ChatGPT, and the first one is this red one with a low rider car. And it literally says low rides, which is weird because I never put anything in like that. But I also didn't want cars. So I said to ChatGPT, let's try this again. I said, how about no cars? It literally came up with a word that says no cars. Then we went to another iteration, like, can you give me neighborhood vibes? They said, here you go, here's a blue one. The guy has a mask on, somebody else has 2 left feet. It's kind of crazy. I said, can we go with something more classic? And they said, here's a tattoo for you. So they brought up this next one. And then I said, maybe something with like beer. And it came up with this super colorful, crazy logo. So yeah, that you'll never replace that human interaction with design.
It's also important to know that AI does expend resources, and we don't always see those when we're sitting in front of a computer asking it to generate a prompt. One of the ways that AI uses resources is in these large data centers. These supercomputers heat up really fast. So it brings in water to cool down the system. Some of that water evaporates, but some of the water is put back. And when it's put back at a warmer temperature, which can impact ecosystems. So it's really important to think about that. AI image generation uses the most resources of any of the AI applications. We can see on this graph, AI image generation is way above just asking for a simple text prompt. And these AI image generators are not as advanced as the text models. So, taking Summer's situation, she had to generate an image multiple times to get what she wants. Every time it's generating more and more and more resources to get close to what she wants. So, it's something to think about on the front end. Also, when we say things like AI thinks, it's kind of a colloquialism only because AI is just kind of a mirror. It's reflecting. It's not thinking in the same way a human would think. It doesn't have context. It doesn't have lived experiences to contextualize anything. So it's looking for keywords. It's analyzing on a statistical level. So there's the pink elephant problem. If I go up to one of my student designers and I say, don't put a pink elephant in this design, they will know not to put a pink elephant in it. But if you give it to ChatGPT, it will put a pink elephant front and center. So it's just one of the ways that we have to know before engaging with AI what the limitations are, what risks there are, and what the cost is going to be. This is an example of a big trend that went around. So people were generating action figures. Our university did it. These are AI generated images. Knowing what we know, we made a decision, and that was a decision just for us, that we wanted to do something different. We knew about the biases, and we were seeing it reflected over and over on a large scale, that when schools were generating students, most of them were Black and white. That represents some of our student populations, but not all. We have a large Indian population here, and we have, a Muslim population here. So we wanted to be reflective of that in this fun trend. So we had our designer take this and run with it to make it a little more reflective. We have students with dyed hair, we have a student with a hijab, and we have our black squirrels. Kent State's known for its black squirrel. One more thing I want to touch on within this trend is there were people who were uploading their photos to generate an AI image of themselves. And while that is totally great and fine, and that is a decision everyone can make, there is also a risk of that metadata. You're giving that metadata to ChatGPT, and it will now know your location, have a scanned image of your face. So it's just something to think about. What's happening to that data?
Well, now we want to talk about AI and humans, a collaboration between the two. Can there be one? Is there one? So blending that AI with that human creativity. So AI handles the data and humans craft the story. AI speeds up decision making, humans build relationships. AI provides insights, humans add emotion and context. And we're going to explain that a little bit more.
So one thing about me, I love to travel. I'm in my travel era. I want to go everywhere. That doesn't always align with, what needs to get done at work. I love sitting on the beach and I want to be covered there, but I also want to be covered at the office so nobody texts me while I'm at the beach. I like to say I'm famously pale, so I really like coverage. If in a standard pre-AI world, to prep all the documents to make sure everything's covered while I'm out, and just in case documents, it takes a lot of time and resources. And especially like when I have work I want to get ahead on top of that, it's a lot. So I have an AI assistant. So this Scribe, it is an extension through Google Chrome. It's free for, I think, about 10 scribes. It will record my screen and generate, using AI, a to-do list, a step-by-step guide. It will include screenshots, all based on what I click on. This took me maybe less than a minute to transcribe. to get done. Normally, if I did it by hand to take screenshots, to put it all together, to format it, it would take me maybe an hour. This is just a really quick, easy way to get it done. Once I hit complete capture, it will generate an editable template for me. So we're completing the scribe, and it will go step by step. The links are hyperlink. You can zoom in on those screenshots. It's so dynamic. It's so easy. It takes something off my plate and just does the admin work for me so I can get back to what my job actually is and get it done. It's editable, it's shareable. I can download it as a PDF. It is so, so helpful.
So I want to talk about our model rooms and gathering feedback. So we have these rooms at Kent State that are built, we call them the model rooms. They're mock rooms, so we don't have to bother our current residents to go in and see a room when there's a tour, things to that extent. And so we really, really like it, but we knew that we needed a revamp of it. And so this year it got renovated, a little updated. And what I really wanted to talk about was that second point that we had mentioned. And it's like being able to really take that information, and AI helped us come up with these ideas, but humans are making the way we can build relationships. So for instance, you can see in the bottom picture, there's one of our students at a big campus map pointing out and talking to a parent about where we're located. In the top left, our top left, I guess, I mean, guys, that's yours as well. There's another student looking about where they want to stay or where they can go. So we got a lot of feedback that people really wanted to see where they were at and where main buildings were. So we put a big campus map in there. The cool thing is we did this photo wall. The photo wall is basically now reaching out to the parents. You can see some quotes from some people that came through. And what's really cool is it's been really well received because it's that human touch all over again, something AI cannot replace.
Another way that AI is so helpful is in a particular situation that we're having now. We are going through graduation and we're bringing new students on in the summer. And we did not plan a week in between. A little bit of a rookie mistake, but ChatGPT is helping us glide through. So in this, I prompted it. I said, I'm writing an onboarding document for a student photographer. Assume you are an 18 to 20-year-old student. Here's what I've written. Tell me what gaps exist. Tell me what questions you would have so I can address it now before they get on campus. It gave me a list, which you can see it's generating in real time. This is as fast as ChatGPT goes. And once it finished writing this, I said, these are great. I love it. Everything it gave me, I agreed with. I asked it if it could blend my original writing with the gaps it identified and blend it together in a document. And then I just took it. And obviously I edited it. I wanted to make sure that everything was super specific. And there are some information I will put a placeholder in, for example, when I'm dealing with student names. So I'll do a bracket, student name, bracket. And ChatGPT knows it doesn't ask me for that information, but it will put that placeholder in. So then later I can go in and put that information because I just don't want ChatGPT to know all about my students. I just think that's a little weird. But it's so super helpful to get this done fast, quick, and easy when I do want to spend time with our graduating students because I will miss them. And I have to schedule my crying time in between. So ChatGPT helps me to preserve my crying time. So we talked about some of the ethical considerations and the challenges when working with AI, especially those biases. Remember, ChatGPT AI doesn't think like a person. It's just analyzing. It's kind of like a mirror. It's reflecting humanity back to us. It's not actually a human itself. But there's also some data privacy concerns and using AI responsibly, maintaining authenticity. We want to avoid over automation in our engagement to keep it really human. We're housing humans. We want to talk to humans. We want to talk like humans. So some steps to get this off the ground: safeguarding your data. This is so super important, especially if you're engaging with AI and you're new to it. So first, ask your institution if they have AI guidelines or trainings. You want to make sure you're in line with your institution and you're not putting anything out there that is sensitive data. Ask questions so you can ethically engage. AI is constantly moving, it's constantly changing. So keeping up and asking questions, doing research really helps you stay on top of the ball. Know the limitations of AI and the programs you're specifically working with to make sure you're not asking it to do anything it's not great at. ChatGPT specifically had a new image update, so that's something that was super limited before, and now it's better, not great, but it's better. So knowing the limitations, knowing what can be worked on, maybe knowledge gaps it has. For example, ChatGPT is like 6 months behind, so it does not know who the new pope is. Assume any data you provide is being used for training. Assume it's studying your behavior. So don't give it any information you don't want it to regurgitate. If you put your resume in, don't put your home address. Don't put, where you worked for long periods of time if you don't want it to know that. Assume anything you give it could be publicly searched in some capacity, because we don't know what AI is using back to us. And avoid using sensitive data. Anonymize your data. Take out names, take out any IDs, take out addresses, and look for opt-out buttons or limits. For example, like cookie access. Here in the US, we don't have any sweeping regulations when it comes to online data, like the EU does, for example. So when it asks you, are you okay allowing cookies? Go in, say only required. Make sure you're not giving it any data for free that it could use against you or to somebody else.
So actionable items and strategies to implement all of this. So it's a lot of information that we gave you. Some people probably are like, oh, this is old school. Maybe we gave you some good tidbits. But if you're new and you're like, how do I really dabble into it? Identify your low-hanging fruit. So automation, training your model, like Julia said, really be mindful of what you're feeding your AI model, whatever platform you choose to use. But just really identify those low-hanging fruits that you can really just take one extra step off your plate, because I know we're all busy and we're all running around in 1,000 different directions. If you're in the housing world, you know that you're going to be closing soon. Summer staff's going to come in, or summer students, summer camps. Like there's never really a downtime, right? So how can AI help you? Use AI to enhance, not replace, that human interaction. Going into our model rooms, being able to physically talk to parents, answering the phone if they have questions, things to that extent. And train teams on AI tools and better practices. So we're really known for like getting a team together to help with move-in, or putting a group together to look for wayfinding, or whatever that may be in your world. Train that team on how to use AI and the best practices as well, so that can help them expedite some of their job duties and what they're looking to do as well, and still have a great successful event or move-in. So what are some of AI's limitations in the words of AI? So yes, we asked ChatGPT, what are your limitations? And this is what they gave us. So there's 5 of them. The first one would be lack of true understanding and context. I don't understand like humans do. I generate responses based on patterns and data, not true comprehension. I process language statistically and not conceptually. Everything that we've been talking about through the whole presentation, they don't, think of the design aspects that we, put out. What does that look like? Feeding it information and the pink elephant, like it doesn't comprehend that. Biases and ethical blind spots. I reflect the data I was trained on, which means biases can still show up even with safety measures in place. That really cool trend that was going around, where you put your photo in and then it will come up with all this stuff, and how here at Kent State we decided to do our own, because we do know that we have a very diverse population here at Kent State. And so what does that look like? So that is one of the limitations that AI has for sure.
Some of the other things that it wanted us to know about its limitations in its own words: no emotional intelligence. I can fake empathy, but I don't feel. Humans are essential for the real emotional support. So again, AI is like a mirror. It's just reflecting humanity back to us. There is not a thinking, living organism behind the screen. No matter how much everyone talks about AI being a superhuman, it's just a buzzword. Limited creativity without human spark. I can remix ideas and generate novel combinations, but true innovation, especially when it requires thinking outside of established paradigms, is still a human domain. AI is just taking what it's been given, analyzing patterns, and feeding it back to us. It's not thinking of anything new. It's not thinking at all. It's remixing and giving it back to us. And then an over reliance on patterns, sometimes to a fault. I lean heavily on patterns I've seen before. This makes me excellent at scaling known processes, but prone to missing outlier scenarios where past patterns don't apply. So, really take everything AI gives you and have a human run through it. Do not take anything at face value. AI is great at patterns, but the human element is so required, especially when we're talking to humans, we're talking to young students who, are a vulnerable population, maybe don't know everything that, an average adult would know. So, we asked ChatGPT to give us a quote. It's a big takeaway. AI can process faster, analyze deeper, and automate with precision. But it's in partnership with human intuition, empathy, and judgment that we unlock its full potential. Knowing where AI thrives and where it falls short is the key to responsible and effective collaboration. Quote ChatGPT.
And with that, this presentation was written in conjunction with AI. So not only did it really help us, we put our own human touch in there, and we wanted to make sure that we crossed all our T's, dotted our I's, and really looked at not just the technical portion, but the human side of that as well.
This QR code will take you to a copy of our slides if you want them. It'll also take you to LinkedIn Connect with me in summer if you have questions that you don't want to ask publicly. But please fill the Q&A with questions. We are happy to answer.
All right, it looks like first question we had come in. What advice would you give someone just starting to blend AI into their content creation process?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I would say is I know we talked a lot about like be very conscious when using AI, but don't be afraid to push AI to its limits. Don't be afraid to interact, to engage. The phrase that we use in like very techie circles is break the system. So you want to go in and you want to try to find out ways to break it. You want to ask it questions, figure out what it can't answer. That will help you know its limitations. And it's also very fun. You can ask it like, "Who's the pope?" and then figure out where its data cuts off. So really get in there and have fun, play around with it. Uh, be conscious, but also don't be afraid to break things.
Another question's come in. I didn't know that ChatGPT could create items like Gantt charts. What other non-word items has ChatGPT made for you? So I'm
So
guessing like non-Microsoft Word is what they mean there.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. So, yeah, like you mentioned, Gantt charts. I was like, this is a shot in the dark. Our senior VP wanted something, and I'm not really fluent in Excel, and I didn't want to take that time, and I wanted it to look pretty. So, um, I took a stab at that, and that was really interesting. But what a great starting point that is. So, yeah, didn't know that. Now we do. Some of the other things that I've used it for, not like word related, and Julia, please chime in on this one, but like writing captions for social media, that's kind of a basic one, but then design wise, sometimes I'll say to my designers, just do some back research. Again, you saw all of the things if you're going to put words in, but sometimes you just get in a creative slump, and what's really interesting is we use Adobe Creative Cloud in our world here with designers, and I'll put something in like, I need some ideas about a pink elephant in a room or whatever, and it will come up with some different ideas. That's not necessarily what you're going to use, but it's just another point of research, like we would if you would go out on Pinterest or things like that as well to design something. Um, I know I've used it a lot more, but that's the one that first came to mind for me. And I'm not sure if Julia, you have anything offhand.
Yeah, so in terms of images, it's really great at data visualization. ChatGPT is really strong at data analysis. There are some things that it misses every once in a while, so it's important to check it, especially when you mix in like labels in your rows and columns. But another thing I've used it for personally is writing code. I'm in grad school right now and I'm in a coding class and I am sometimes a little lost. So I will give it my code and be like, what is the problem? And I will say to it, like, don't do it for me. Teach me what I'm doing wrong and summarize my thing so I can actually learn. But ChatGPT and especially Claude, another AI model, are really, really good at coding. So play around.
All right, we've got a couple other great questions that have come in. We'll start here. Which stakeholders would you recommend engaging with at the university to determine university policies around AI?
So at Kent State, our big Marcom is called UCM University Communication Marketing. We've talked to them about guidelines. We're kind of known on campus as like being really gung-ho about AI. So there's conversations that we have, and we ask them what they know, what we know. We also have a lot of faculty on campus that know a lot. We have a whole department dedicated to emerging media and technology where a lot of people are AI experts. Here on campus, we have a professor who is the general manager of the Markula Center for ethics at also in another school. So he deals a lot with talking with these large companies on AI. So it's really kind of analyzing what resources you have on campus and talking to different people to see what they know, because just because some people work in marketing doesn't mean they automatically know about AI. But don't be afraid to tap into the academic side because there are so many people that are a rich resource that are dying to talk to someone about their research. Spencer, you're muted.
But as though I was talking, yeah. Related to stakeholders at the university level, question about plagiarism. Do we need to be concerned about plagiarism with AI or publishing AI generated content to our university's website?
This is a fantastic question. AI really exists in a gray area when it comes to copyright. We saw it recently there was another ChatGPT trend where people were doing a Studio Ghibli style thing, and it totally just scraped everything it was doing. There are no laws really to cover this gray area. It's kind of like memes. Like people will just use it in different contexts and their fair use laws haven't caught up with it. So it's really a gray area. I'm in a pottery class like outside of college and my pottery teacher calls it legalized plagiarism, but it exists in a legal gray area. So really just check with your ethics, both personally and professionally, and try to figure it out. But also you can cross-reference what it gives you if you think anything is close and see what comes up in terms of like Google, if anything is a direct hit or not. But legally, you're kind of fine.
Please note this is a webinar from May 9th, 2025. All right.
And
We'll
I
see
am
you
not a
later.
lawyer.
Yeah. All right, another question that's come in. Thanks for sharing about Google Scribe and Sprout. Are there any other AI platforms you use regularly besides these and ChatGPT that you can recommend?
What's
Summer, do you want to take
funny,
that one?
I was gonna say, what's funny is I just had one of my design students when we were preparing for this presentation. She's like, well, how does our office use it? And so we like kind of really started talking about it and what that looks like. So in the design world, and I will go there right now, if you know anything about Adobe Creative Suite, we actually have there's an AI extension, if you will, on Photoshop right now. So like if you want to delete something, like there's somebody in your picture and you want to delete it. So think of all those commercials with like, the phones like, oh, there's this random, mom in the picture of this guy flexing. Like I just saw that last night. I want to remove my mom. They have that on Photoshop where you can do that and it will AI generate the background so you don't have to spend as much time. Now it doesn't always work. We've learned that. You can also put in a prompt like we took a picture one time and we wanted to put a textured plate on it for our dining facility and it put an owl underneath it. So be aware of those things. So do we use it? Yes. Is it great on some things? Absolutely. Is it not so great on other things? Absolutely. Again, it's that human touch for sure. We also use it, we use Canva quite frequently to do presentations. That's what this is in. So, I mean, like we will use Canva to use their AI generated items as well. So if you're not a marketer, not a designer, Julia is not a designer. I am. And so this is why we complement each other so well. But also in a pinch, how do we do something where my language can still talk to Julia's language and we can meet in the middle? And what does that look like? So we use Canva a lot. Qualtrics is one of them that we use. That is actually, something our university provides for us. So we try to utilize that as well. Flow Code is another one. It's a paid subscription. And you can see like we have a flow code on here. But it will pull like AI generated items for us on how we can reach our areas and things like that. So definitely we pay for it, the back end portion, but definitely something to look into as well when it comes to like pulling that analytics and we're really analytic driven. We also we are going to get into this in the housing world. We work with a company called TouchWorks. And we do a lot in our culinary world with Text and Tell, which is like an instant feedback program. And we were in the beta testing group for that. And what's cool is they can write, if somebody puts in your broccoli stunk, like it was cold, whatever, and we get a lot of those sentiments that come in. Their back end AI will generate that, so our chefs don't have to look at that. But we are bringing it into the housing world under a different kind of dynamic. So we use them as well for that kind of stuff. That's a few that we use.
Yeah, very baked into systems that we probably were already using, and they just have AI features because everybody loves data.
And that concludes what we've had submitted for our Q&A. So those of you who submitted questions, thank you so much for continuing the conversation. I want to give a big thank you to Summer and Julia for spending some time this afternoon sharing their time, talents, and expertise with us. A lot of great takeaways and ideas for us all to use in our work worlds and probably personal worlds. So certainly you've got the chat option. If you all want to send them a message, you should be able to do that. A couple of things I want to highlight before we go. Next Friday, we actually have another in our webinar series, Supporting Student Mental Health. You can find that on our ACUHO-I webpage. And coming in June, we'll be having sessions on transitioning to summer operations and disrupting student affairs staff departure. So lots of great content coming your way just around the corner online and virtually. We have recorded the session. I'll be editing it and putting it on our ACUHO-I YouTube channel. And we look forward to connecting with you in person or virtually in the future. Thanks again for attending.